It's our time to talk Canes with all of you. So pull up a chair and get yourself settled in. Hit the like button. You already know that is going to be the case. So you might as well just hit the like button right now. Get yourself settled. Leave those comments and questions in the live chat. Miami Hurricanes Live, number 334. Cam Underwood, State of the U, makes it all work for us right here each and every Wednesday, 7 o'clock Eastern time. We're just getting started, so time is also available for you to bring in a friend or two or more. So bring them on into the chat. Cam, what's going on? What was that?
No, I'm saying, a friend or 2 or 5 or 10 or 20,
yes.
Just flashing other numbers at you guys. But hey, man,
we got more than 2 or 3 friends each, don't we?
Say again.
We got more than 2 or 3 friends each. We can,
exactly,
just keep asking.
Hey, bring them in. Maybe they'll learn something. They'll definitely be entertained, if nothing else.
Yes.
So yeah, man. Always good to be here on a Wednesday night. Been a big Wednesday over here, kind of in that ACC basketball moniker kind of a way. So, I've had a really good day myself. Can't complain. So, Miami seems to be having lots of good visit days. Haha, you see what I'm doing there? But laying the foundation for some elite recruiting and everything, but always elite content. Cam and Mark, what pair could be better? But we're here Wednesday night. Let's get it going.
Let's get it going with one Ryan Mack. He plays safety, St. Thomas Aquinas, Fort Lauderdale. About a top 50 player in the state, depending on your service. Looking at 247 Sports, they like him a little bit more than the composite totals. Roughly top 500 player overall, top 40 safety in the nation.
Yeah, so Ryan Mack is a legacy. His father played at Miami back in the 90s. He's a little bit smaller than his dad at 5'11", 165. This is a guy who definitely has speed. He's run sub 11 in the 100 multiple times already, verified at St. Thomas Aquinas. And they're a powerhouse in pretty much everything. Like, they put a lot into their athletics. It's their whole paradigm of, the mind, spirit, body connection thing, whatnot. So yeah, their track program is very strong. So those times are verified. He worked primarily at corner for undefeated state champion Aquinas last year. Did Mack. I think he might float between there and safety, maybe a little bit. And he's a guy who can, he's kind of a Swiss Army knife. He can play in multiple spots. He's listed as a safety on the recruiting services, played cornerback, and he's cornerback sized too. You know what I mean? So he's not a guy who's out of place really anywhere in the secondary. So he's a guy who can add in and be, and add talent to the roster in multiple positions. There, he had lots of big time interest. You're talking Alabama, Florida State, Penn State, Pitt, South Carolina, Ole Miss. All kinds of teams. And look, he was a starting player on undefeated state champion St. Thomas Aquinas. This is a guy who could go a lot of different places. He chooses to follow the family legacy and blaze his own trail from Fort Lauderdale down to Coral Gables. Hopefully he works out in a Hurricanes jersey better than some of the other legacies that we've had on campus recently. But he has all the talent and the pedigree and the training and development, around him at St. Thomas Aquinas to be able to do that. He's also the third Miami Gardens Raven from the Optimist level to choose Miami. And that is a thing where, they're trying. I've seen things. There's so many players because there's all the different Optimist programs down here, right? But Miami Gardens Ravens has a lot in this class that are superstar level players. And so I've seen people talking about, 6 for 6 or 7 for 7, trying to get all the Ravens to the U. But, when you consider the guys like, Josiah Trader, 5-star wide receiver, is of that cadre. You know what I mean? And it's oh, hey. So maybe you're getting some of the other guys from that Miami Gardens Ravens Optimist team in, and then hey, we're going to now try to pull in, reel in the big fish, the whales, as they've been talking about from the recruiting department. And if I have to see another GIF from a Miami recruiting staffer talking about a goddamn whale with another day, a week, or month with no 5-star commitment, bro, I'm fine with riding out the process and everything, and you get the commits when you get the commits, but them being on stomping on social media so hard, we're getting them, and then it's just and everybody's looking and watching and waiting for the announcement, and then it's just crickets and tumbleweed. Bro, shut it up then. You know what I mean? Like real G's move in silence, and you're definitely not doing that kind of a thing. So, pick your engagement. But like, yeah, this whole thing of hinting at big fish getting in the boat and then not happening. Like, Captain Ahab, like, you can't talk about needing a bigger boat when you keep, catching minnows, metaphorically. But regardless, Ryan Mack is a good get for Miami. Again, it gives you another foothold into St. Thomas Aquinas. And even if you're of the mind, he's a top 500 player, not a top 50 player in the country. Look, Aquinas has dudes. You know what I mean? Like Mike Harley was a 3-star from there and left as the all-time yardage receiver in Miami Hurricanes history. Now, I know that he had a 5th year and everything, but like, bro, you're going to want to go back there again and again. And you get a guy who can play here, even if it's not necessarily a big role. And hey, maybe he develops into a superstar, like a starting level player, but you go and get a gift from St. Thomas Aquinas. Why? Because you're going back there this year and next year and. So I think that it's a good get. Obviously, you want to keep the family together and everything. And move forward. So it's another good, piece of the puzzle that you can deploy in multiple different ways in the secondary, adds another player of talent to this recruiting class and continues to move forward while we hope that we need a bigger boat for the big fish, whales, whatever you want to call it eventually. Not orcas, because orcas are assholes and they're going to sink our boat. But, hey, whatever.
Legacy's not working out. Legacy's not working out to the extent that they match their father's legacy, or just not even hitting the mark in regards to what kind of player they were supposed to be.
Respectfully, both. Like, I mean, honestly. Well, first of all, let me take a quick departure here in this conversation. Ray Lewis III passed away. 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago. That was Ray Lewis, the linebacker, his son, who played here recently in his 20s, super young, such a tragedy. And just our condolences to the Lewis family, and just a life lost way too young. And it made me think of that, mentioning the progeny of prior players, and it really just came to my mind. And I know that I don't think I mentioned it last week, but I just wanted to take that moment just to extend our heartfelt condolences, because something I haven't shared on here, but I had a cousin who died of a brain tumor when I was in 7th grade. And she was born, her name was Crystal. She was born on Christmas Day, the Christmas before I was born in August. So her and her younger brother, who's a year and 2 weeks to the day younger than I, were the original Smurfs in our family, the three of us. Like, we were thick as thieves and everything. So I get it, losing a family member at a very young age, because my best friend passed when I was 7th grade. So I get it. And everything. So, coming from that, and just in general, wanted to be supportive of people in general. Just honest and heartfelt condolences to the Lewis family. So there's that. Taking the uneasy transition into the world of football in this discussion, there hasn't really been a legacy player. Let me think now before I go out on a super limb. But I can't think of a legacy player who's really, I mean, none of them have lived up to the potential of, the original, their dad or uncle or whomever. But I would say, like, the best question mark was like Al Blades Jr. And like, he was fine when he was here. You know what I mean? But like, AJ Highsmith, when he played here, wasn't great. Got picked on in the secondary. Ray Lewis III ended up transferring elsewhere to finish his career because he barely saw the field. Michael Irvin II, the tight end, barely on the field and everything. He was a big wide receiver in Texas at a small private school. He caught like literally 23 or 25 or 27 passes in a game to set a record when he was at this tiny school his junior year. Transferred to St. Thomas Aquinas, comes to Miami, doesn't really do much. Like, I mean, maybe somebody in the comments, maybe somebody watching this YouTube video later will think of a legacy player here at the University of Miami who like was a standout player. But honestly and truly, off the top of my brain, and even preparing to say that statement about Ryan Mack, hopefully maybe being the first in recent memory to be a rotation player or better of the subsequent generation, I really struggle to think of one. I really do. Maybe somebody is remembering somebody that I'm forgetting, but Yeah, I mean, living up. I mean, I think that the kid living up to the standard of the father. I put that out because like that was from Miami Hurricanes heyday. We haven't had many players like that in general, but even to the level of what I or many people perceived their own individual potential to be, damn near all of them have fallen short of that. So maybe Mack changes that.
You were making a comparison just a week or two ago and brought up Michael Irvin Jr., and I looked him up, and he caught like 7 passes in his career, something like that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, look, and everybody knows the playmaker 47, like streaking down the sideline at Florida State, and like bro, and then taking all them hits over the middle is 88 for the Cowboys and but like Michael Irvin Jr. didn't he finish at like FAU or something, like, or is finishing at FAU? Like, I mean, yeah, I cannot off the top of my, and maybe I need to look through these rosters and things, but like, I mean, maybe like if you go back to like Anthony Chickalo, whose dad played at Miami, and he was like a freshman All-American before Al Golden put him on the, you need to be 310-pound program, which clearly was not his body type or build. Like, maybe he's the high water mark. Like, I mean, like I'm really having to dig to think of like a legacy Miami player.
Well, for some reason, it seems to me that the great legendary Miami players are having offspring that are following in their footsteps in regards to their collegiate choice, as opposed to marginal, just barely could make the roster program type players are having offspring that are
exceeding. I mean, even
great players.
Even you have, I believe he was my freshman brother, Terrell Walden. His son was a walk-on running back these last couple of years. So like you have a middle bottom of the roster guy, has a kid, goes to Miami, but then that kid, like, I mean, he was here for 4 years and everything. And like, as a walk-on running back, like he showed something in the spring, not this current year, but last year heading into the 22 season, but like, he didn't really play meaningful snaps. Like we got blown out a bunch, so we got some snaps. You know what I mean? So like, there's been that, but I mean, yeah, I can't really think of anybody. And like, I know somebody in the comments is like, well, Frank Gore Jr. is really good. Yeah. But like, he's also tiny. And I don't even know that he would have had the opportunity to be as successful as he's been at Southern Miss had he had a realistic opportunity to matriculate at the University of Miami. Like he got a camp offer, but like he didn't really have a committable, come to Miami, I'm going to have a ceremony, put on a hat, sign a letter of intent offer. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I thought of Frank Gore Jr., but I was strictly thinking of players who followed up their father or uncle at the University of Miami. Not that went elsewhere.
No. I'm saying, but no, I hear you, but just like honestly, again, I'm thinking back to Chickalo, or then maybe I would have to go outside of the University of Miami to find, someone somewhere else who might have hit that standard. But hey, there's always a first, so maybe we'll see.
Falconer TRX, thank you so much for the super sticker to get us started. Appreciate you. And coming back with a comment here. Miami is great when St. Thomas pipeline is flowing.
Yeah, man. Look, they got talent for days every single year. And Miami's always going to recruit there. We're always going to take guys from there. Like Chance Robinson, the 4-star wide receiver goes there. Seems, pretty set on coming to Miami now. And then Mack, and we'll see. I mean, yeah, Bain, his brother did play here as an offensive lineman, so we'll see. Now that from Marcus Enriquez, so Mack and Bain are going to set the standard for what it means to be a legacy player at the U. Might be, and I mean, yeah, it's going to take like this next wave to change the state of affairs. Like it's clearly you're not going to be able to lean on those guys who have been here. It's like, yeah, it was like, this is completely random, but just deal with me. I remember when I was like in college, in high school, like, high school and college. So this is like late 90s, early 2000s. Syracuse lacrosse was awesome. And always they played on Labor Day weekend. So it's like right at the end of the school year, like right when you got back from college. And they had a Powell brother. It was Casey, another one, and Michael was the smallest one. He was the last one. He was the best one. But Casey and I think it was Casey, Corey, and Michael. For like the better part of a decade, bro, they were always in the Final Four. And like, insofar as I'm a lacrosse fan, which is not much because that was our rival sport in high school in the spring season, like I was a Syracuse lacrosse fan because I was like, I can turn it on every year after not watching a game. And I'm going to look at the orange, and it's going to be one of those dudes who plays either midi or attack, has the last name Powell, and he's incredible, first-team All-American, record setter, better than his brother before him, and that's who I'm going to root for, and he's going to propel them to the championship, which pretty much happened, right? So for that time that you had Powell brother after Powell brother, and then a little break, and then Michael came in and like shattered the other two brothers' records, you're like, cool. Last name Powell, playing lacrosse at Syracuse, superstar, incredible all-time great, going to lead us to championship victory. Where are those dudes at Miami? I can't find one, right? Whereas at Syracuse lacrosse, like I mentioned, and other places, those guys were there and like their careers matched up or exceeded even the greatness that preceded them. But to Marcus Enriquez's point, look, if anybody is going to start to put legacy players or the tradition of legacy players in the next generation on that path at Miami, I know he added Mack because he just committed, but it starts with Ruben Hurricane Bang. Like that kid right there, we might look back in a couple of years and be like, yeah, he was the one who finally flipped the fortunes of legacy players in Miami from also-rans who usually transfer somewhere else into building their own superstar career here.
This conversation is reminding me of the two UCLA basketball players whom I can't even think of their name now, that you couldn't turn on SportsCenter or First Take 5 years ago without hearing their names. The dad with the big mouth and the two
Ball.
Yeah.
Lonzo Ball, yeah.
Yes.
And LiAngelo, but in a similar kind of formation like the Powell family, the youngest one, LaMelo, is the best one in the NBA and everything. But yeah, it's one of those things. And I mean, LaMelo didn't go to college; he went to the G League and then straight to the league or whatever. But yeah, hopefully Miami is able to find performance from these second generation players that they've insofar yet to not to find. So hopefully that changes. Yeah, Leroy, the Black Ninja Turtle. All right. Hey to you as well. How are we looking with getting Josiah Trader? Saw him wearing a Miami helmet. In case anybody is tuning in and not plugged in or aware of the recruiting status or just the landscape to know who he is, Josiah Trader, JoJo, he is a 5-star wide receiver from Chaminade Madonna in Hollywood. He is one of those Miami Garden Ravens from the Optimist level that people have been tweeting about on the tweeters, the tweet machine and things like that. He is the teammate of the number one prospect at wide receiver, Jeremiah Smith, who was committed to Ohio State. And Josiah Trader is, I mean, if he's not firm like number one on top of the board for Miami, he's like top 5 target. I mean, he's a guy that can change the state of affairs and talent level in the wide receiver room. Miami feels, I mean, I think that Miami is recruiting him. Well, I know Miami is recruiting him very hard. I gotta sneeze. Excuse me. Sorry about that. But yeah, he has been to Miami several times. Miami keeps the pressure on here. Will continue to keep the pressure on. Seems to be in a good position, but nothing is done at this point of the process. Although things do look promising with Josiah Trader. He was wearing a Miami helmet at an event. I believe that was near to Legends Camp. I know that they've seen him 7-on-7 circuit wearing the Miami gloves and things like that. Those things are great anecdotes, but are not necessarily concrete movements in the world of recruiting. But Miami feels that they're in a good spot, will continue pressing for him and not rest on their laurels. They're not just going to say, okay, well, we think that he should come here. They're going to do everything within their power to to influence that decision, hopefully to get him here. But currently things look good, but nothing is finished yet.
Folks, you already shop on Amazon. Use our link. You help us grow the channel, build out everything that we do here at the Voice of College Football. You already shop on Amazon. It's the same exact shopping experience. You just use our link. It's in the description section of all the videos. Super chat coming in here as well from Corey. Corey just stopping by to say hi and contribute. Thank you so much for that, Corey.
Appreciate it.
And Corey coming back with another one. We appreciate that, sir. Was there any Miami coach speak that you hated?
Absolutely. And it's one because it bastardized something that I find to be foundational. Yes.
Al Golden.
Al Golden, trust the process. Because he kept saying it and not changing anything. Like, you have to trust, I am a process-based person. Like, there are some people who, like, think, oh, I was going to go to the world of music because, like, I was just talking about music and I have a degree in music and I taught music. Bump that. Think of sports, right? Think about your gamers. Not going to really be there in practice, going to, that like give half effort, not even really develop that well, but the lights turn on and all of a sudden that kid does business, right? Okay, but there's also some kids who, like, they really grow through the practice process, right? Through going to practice and working the drills and doing all of those things and staying after and working more technique and things like that. I myself personally am a process-based person. I love the games and I love the concerts when I sang and all those things, but, like, I always saw the value in the practice, in the rehearsal, in the whatever it was that got you the, consistent interaction over time is how the growth happened in those instances. It wasn't just I showed them played. There was a structure in place to get there, right? Al Golden bastardized that because said, trust the process. So you just keep doing the same things, but a process needs evaluation holistically from front to back. And if the result of the formation of your program and process is improper, does not meet the standard that you are shooting for with your intended outcome, then you have to reevaluate and change the process to engender and achieve a different result. He just kept saying, well, trust the process. Well, trust the process. You keep doing the same damn thing. Trust the process. And look, this is something that I called out with Manny Diaz, because to Manny Diaz's credit, that first year we lost, or the first 2 years, because he was only here or whatever, at the beginning of his tenure, we lost the first 4 games following bye weeks. But at least he literally, because we asked him about it in sessions, he said, okay, I lost the first game after a bye. Then we had, because that was the week 0 Florida game. Lost next. Cool. So we come back later, and then we have another bye week. We're going to do things differently. This bye week, lost again. Had another bye week. Okay, we're going to do things differently than bye week 1 and bye week 2, right? Because the result was improper. Like, we lost those games. Tried to flip something up, lost again. Now, at least he tried to change it and find the secret sauce, even though he didn't, and we all know how that went, but at least he endeavored to try to enact change to, like, modify and improve the result. Al Golden just was selling us a line of goods saying, trust the process, bro, trust the process. I'm going to keep doing the same thing and hope to God that something is going to change. Nothing is going to change. Like, you have to evaluate your holistic system. You cannot just say, trust the process, if you're not updating the process because the result does not meet estimation. Like that. Rawr! Corey Fleming, my God, I could rage on this for a long time, but that is the Miami coach speak I hated. Talking about trust the process, that you're not going to reevaluate and then you're not going to edit, and we're going to keep losing games, and we're going to keep having this state of affairs in this program just to trust what's going on and not evaluate or change a damn thing. Oh, I couldn't stand that.
I'm trying to process myself what may have been going on in the administration in regards to their evaluation of the head coaching position and how much they truly cared and were committed to championship level football. Because the Mark Richt hire, had it been made somewhere else, would show, okay, you're going after a top 5 to 10 coach in the country. But obviously, that being his alma mater, I don't know how much that just kind of fell into place. And then he leaves, and you go Manny Diaz, who was accepting the job, or had accepted the job at Temple. He's clearly not ready for the job, and there was no national search. There was no high level thought given to, we want to go after the very best.
Well, let the liquor tell it. Let me
Yep.
stop in there. According to the athletic director and everything, there's always been national searches. It's incredible that a national search in Miami invariably lands with a currently seated or recent hire assistant, right? Happened in football. Literally, JDRTI. Well, first of all, Jim Morris retires. You hire or elevate Gino DiMare because his dad was on the board of trustees and would have pulled all the funding, and he forced that nepotism through. Gino DiMare quits because he didn't have the range, and then we do a national search for baseball coach, and the number one candidate is JD Arteaga, who's been here for 20-something years, even through all this losing. Like, hey, maybe he is the best case, and like, hey, I hope that JD Arteaga, who was foundational to my fandom in the University of Miami athletics, because if you remember, I said that I was a baseball fan first, and from 94 to 97, when he was here for 4 years, JD Arteaga and the Miami Hurricanes were in the College World Series every single year. So I'm growing up in, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th grade, and other times as well, but each one of those summers, cool, I'm turning it on, I'm watching from Rosenblatt, and I'm putting on my script M to match my script D for Detroit Tigers Miami hat, and I'm watching Miami in the College World Series all the damn time. So this is somebody who personally, as the all-time winningest pitcher in Miami Hurricanes history, made it or led the team to the College World Series for 4 years in a row, foundational to my personal fandom in this university. I hope that he succeeds, but also, like, this intensive, exhaustive national search lands on the dude right next to the dude who we just got rid of, or got rid of himself, or whatever. Like, but extrapolating that out to football, the athletic director all the way through, or athletic directors that we've had, have always said, yeah, we enacted and have paid firms for these national searches that have just landed them at, the guy who, if you're in church talking about neighbor, look to your neighbor on the right, neighbor on the left, and all of a sudden one of those guys is always the guy for the job. Word. But hey.
Falconer. Florida State chatter wants Manny as DC. Odds. Oh, okay.
Well, Manny Diaz, if you do not remember, is a Florida State alum, for one. He started his coaching career there as a grad assistant. So let's just throw that out there. So there is a connection, other than, just trying to stick it to Miami by having one of their former staffers, go there. Look, man, Manny Diaz is probably, with the job he's done at Penn State, I would say 2, maybe 3 really good more years away from getting looks as a head coach again. Maybe not at a Miami level school, but probably, a P5 school, middle of the pack kind of a thing is something that he could pull a step up from Temple that, he had for 13 days before Miami went and poached him. But I say all that to say, look, man, Penn State's defense has been not, like, if y'all have not been paying attention, Penn State's defense has been under his direction these last couple of years, this last year for one, but not bad. So, they're recruiting pretty well. The implementation of player and, of scheme is there. I mean, there's still, some of the breakdowns and some of the mistimed corner blitzes that, he's famous for, but like, that's not a bad defense. Like, that's a pretty decent defense. So him going to Florida State with those kind of athletes that you can get there, I think that might be a big positive for his, coaching career if he just wants to elevate and potentially grab more spotlight to eventually get back into a head coaching job. The odds that it happens, I'm not really sure. Obviously, he has respect for James Franklin, who hired him off the scrap heap after Miami, kicked him to the curb. But that would be a very interesting marriage of him going back to his alma mater. But that'd be really interesting. But like, Florida State could do much worse than Manny Diaz for defensive coordinator, to be perfectly honest. I'm not sure what his ceiling is as a head coach, but as a defensive coordinator, Manny Diaz, not And again, do not let perfect be the enemy of good. Do not sit here and say, oh, well, like this, that. I'm not saying he's perfect. I'm not saying he's the best ever. But in the world of college football, especially how it's played today, Manny Diaz is probably in the top echelon of defensive coordinators. So, like, that would be interesting if Florida State were to go that way.
Cam Underwood's here, as he typically is every Wednesday night with us, talking Florida. We are talking Miami, of course. Well, it's all over the place. It's right in front of me. You were just talking Florida State and Manny. It just
yeah, you got that Garnet t-shirt on today, poison your brain.
It's everywhere. It's seeping into my pores.
Got you.
We're talking Miami football, folks. Yes.
There we go.
Of course we are. This is our longest tenured running show. Of course we are talking Miami with all of you. Leave those comments and questions. We appreciate those super chats coming in. Thank you so much for that.
Nice.
Cam, you set us up last week for a huge recruiting weekend, huge official visit weekend. Now we're only sitting here a couple days after the close of that weekend. So it's not like we're expecting commitments to be flying at us, but at the same time, has anything come out that would give you indication as to this being a fruitful weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Miami continues to just show themselves very well with all of these visit weekends. There were, multiple 5 stars, and this is a thing where I'm fine playing the long game. You know what I mean? Where it's just like you have to kind of invest, you're growing a tree, as it were. You plant the seed, you water it, you have it in the sun, and over time, that tree will grow. This is not Jack and the Beanstalk, plant 3 beans, and all of a sudden you have the largest, living thing that you've ever seen. This is not that kind of endeavor. But where I get again, my personal feeling of it is, like these recruiting staffers, like, shut up, bro. Like don't start selling this stuff that's not going to happen, or not going to happen in a reasonable time frame from when you're talking about it happening or potentially happening. But yeah, Miami is in a good place with a lot of these guys who visited campus over the course of this month, and continues to lay foundation for this class to really elevate. Now, I know at present it's only 25 or 22% blue chip. It's going to end up much higher than that. Number one, because several of the current commits, I do believe, are going to end up as 4 stars. And also, there's a lot of highly rated players who have Miami in their top 5 or top 3 that are going to come off of the board likely this summer. So, you do have to play a little bit of the long game. You do have to be patient, especially because there are fewer players committing on official visits now than ever in the past. So, yeah, but I mean, Miami didn't do themselves a disservice with any of these. I do think that there have been some steps forward taken in some of these recruitments. I don't think that there's anybody super duper imminent. I know that there's somebody who is committing soon, though. Chris Cole, I think that is, what's his name? Ro Marley's nephew. So another Miami legacy is a 4-star linebacker. He's supposed to commit July 1st, which is like Saturday. Yeah. So like that's one that could add on to the class, give Miami another chance to have a legacy player earn a big role and have a solid career here, and also improve the blue chip ratio. And then there's a lot of other guys that have been down here that Miami is pushing for. So, this is just baby steps adding up into, running a marathon. You know what I mean? Just like a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here, a little bit there. And eventually you kind of get to the goal. So yeah, you're not going to really see, or I haven't seen, read, or heard reported that like it's been a massive switch for any of the guys who are here. But yeah, Miami just continues to knock the official visit weekends out of the park and stack, consistent interactions with these players together, and hopefully eventually get to the intended goal, especially when you're recruiting guys at the top of the recruiting class. Is going to take more work. So, we're about that business, boss.
Falconer's taking care of our show tonight here, coming back with thoughts on the Josh Pate visit and interviews.
I have tabbed those because I had something else that has taken a lot of my immediate attention. I have not circled back on those from that. So I don't have real feedback on the interviews, but in terms of the visit, Josh Pate, national radio podcast show, whatever you want to call it, host with 247. Yeah, he goes on the road and he goes places, but he don't go everywhere. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like he's in Manhattan, Kansas this week and then Boise, Idaho the next week. And like, it's very intentional where he goes. And the fact that Miami was on that list speaks to the caliber and the legacy and the stance of the program and just the overall brand. You know what I mean? Like, because he could have gone other places with higher achievement recently, you know what I mean? But he came to Miami. Even after, and this is not even like Mario Cristobal just got hired and now I'm going to come down. You know what I mean? Like, this is a year later. We've already seen a losing season. We've already seen like there, and still the draws there and all those kind of things. And like, I'm sure that, when 247 and CBS Sports reached out, I'm sure that the athletic department and sports information directors were like, oh yeah, like this is great. Like, do all that. But like, even being on the list and everything, just shows the importance of this program from that kind of standpoint. So that's my thought on the fact that he visited, but like the structure and content of the visit interviews, like I said.
Oh, we lost you. Your audio cut out just like 10 seconds ago. Meanwhile, we will keep going through the super chats. Falconer TRX sponsoring the show tonight, as he does many times. Thank you so much for that. Miami needs a mango season or a few. We will let Cam respond to that because we don't want that super chat to go to waste. Of course not. We will get Cam's response on this one, with the Canes needing a mango season or a few. Oh, no Cam still. No audio. No, we don't have you. We've got more from Falconer TRX, though. Florida's zero income tax with the NIL helps. It's a good point there. With the no state income tax, which I would have loved to have had just a few weeks ago because I was catching up on some things since I've moved from Connecticut, catching up on some state income tax, and that wasn't good. No. No. I can't imagine it's anything here. Nothing's changed. No. Now, if you unplug, possibly if Cam would unplug and just go through the laptop mic, that could be one thing. Look at Tim stopping by. Great to see Tim here. Of course, our guys Tim and Rick get together every Sunday night on our USC channel, folks. You got to check this out. USC, our Trojan Conquest live show every Sunday night at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. No. Must be something with a laptop. It's very odd. Yeah, I don't even know. Tim is suggesting restarting the computer. Usually clicking out and coming back in, does it? Nashville Kane thinks Cam's just tricking us all. John, we appreciate it. Yes, the Amazon link. And Tim, yes, we do appreciate you. Not making any comparisons myself here. We just do what we do. We've had Josh Pate on a couple times. Very nice guy. Tim says, Cam, I'm surprised with Miami recruiting this cycle, especially offensive line. Are you concerned? And what is going on with offensive line recruiting? We will definitely ask that question next week if it comes to that. Hopefully, Cam will make it back. If not, Tim, I know that that's a question Cam will scarf up because that's a good one right there. That is a good one. And yes, we don't promote enough on here, whether it's this channel or the other channels, not nearly enough. So John pushes me on. We got to promote more. So one promotion would be you can help us grow this channel if you grab that Amazon link and use it, please.
Hello?
There you are.
Man, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened.
Don't worry about it.
But computer real quickly. So
It's not your fault.
Yeah.
Technology lets us down sometimes. I was just trying to make sure, nothing happened here magically. But I thought this was a good question by our buddy Tim. And again, everyone, if you love college football, Tim's got a great USC show on our USC channel every Sunday night at 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern. Cam, I'm surprised at the Miami recruiting in this cycle, especially the offensive line recruiting. Are you concerned what's going on with the offensive line recruiting?
I'm not, because we're essentially taking a small step back to focus on defense this year. That's been very intentional. That's why we went super hard on all the guys that we got or went after and signed last year. And signing that caliber of offensive line class again the next row is simply not feasible. So we have taken a step back intentionally, but focusing that on the defensive line. And I'm hopeful that, at the end of the process, we'll see a defensive line that warrants this shift in priority in this class. But I mean, even with me not, being, in the running for 2 5-star tackles, right? You got Papa Afua, the Isendri Afua. What in the world? Well, because I restarted the computer, so everything wants to restart now. But the number 4 interior offensive lineman in the country, top 100 player from Seattle, O'Day. He was just on campus. He's a guy that Miami took a step forward with. But I mean, not saying that he's going to sign here, but that's a guy of the quality that you're talking about. Zuri Madison, he's a guy who took an official visit, but he just signed or announced to Arkansas the other day from Lexington, Kentucky. And I mean, in this season of official visits, the Morris Schnorvanzer, German kid who moved to Virginia. He's a guy that Miami's after. Derek Plaz, who decommitted from Penn State, who we previously discussed. He's an offensive tackle with pretty good projectability that Miami is connected with and has brought in for a visit already, and several others. And I mean, there's already, a couple guys committed. What's his name? Juan Manaya. His nickname is Door, like Door. And it's funny, he just put it up on Twitter today. He's like, if anybody wanted to know where my nickname came from, and it's literally him filling up an entire 7-foot door frame, because he's 6'5" with tall hair, and literally a big behind door frame, like he's the door in the door. So he's like, if you wonder where the name came from, just look. Literally he's just standing there. So I mean, yeah, there are guys with size and talent already. But no, I do believe the change to be intentional. And if you land a Papa Afua and maybe another blue chip lineman, or him and another blue chip lineman, I think that is perfectly fine for the state of affairs in this class following what we had last year. But the real key for the flipping of this roster is going to be an elite haul on the defensive line, a la what we did on the offensive line recruiting last year. And that's why it's the offensive line recruiting has slipped down the priority list, because of the amount and quality of the talent that we were able to secure last cycle.
Florida is one of 7 states with no state income tax. I was letting some folks know while you had to deal with those tech issues that,
Tejas.
yeah, I was reminded of some state income, their tax from the state of Connecticut here that I had to catch up on. But I
Wow.
kind of left the state and was like, "See ya."
I mean, hey, if I'm gone, then you can't get it from me. But yeah, I mean, I know that Texas is another
Oh
state
no,
that
they
has,
can.
well, they can. But yeah, I know that Texas is another state that has no state income tax.
Yeah, those are the
Florida's
2 big football playing states, Florida
right,
and Texas. The other ones outside of the state of Washington with obviously 2 major schools.
right. I mean, 3 if you count Eastern Washington. You know what I mean? But with the red turf. But yeah, 0. Does it help with NIL? I mean, sure. Why would it not? It gives more. I mean, it should. In theory, give more disposable income to the residents of the state of Florida who want to allocate funds in that way. And everything. It is interesting because I did see that in the legal realm, and I'm not a lawyer, and I have friends who are lawyers, and they're quick to point that out. But I saw it being discussed that there were entities that were saying that the NIL collectives filing for 501c3 nonprofit status that is actually erroneous, and they're going to actually change their status. So what you do is you register your organization as a 501c3, and then you say, okay, any of the donations to our NIL operations are tax deductible. So then it's beneficial for the rich people as well. It's well, I'm going to spend it on something. Might as well, use this, money for a vanity project at my alma mater and everything. But the oversight powers that be are saying, no, wait. That's not, no. So if you're taking away the 501c3 ability, which would be anywhere can do that, then yeah, if you look at the states, really led by Florida and Texas that have no state income tax, then ostensibly the people who live in those states would have more disposable income to put towards NIL should they choose to do so. So, I mean, in theory, that is helpful for the schools in those states, but we'll see.
Follow us, everyone, to the main channel. After we get done here, we are taking your calls and we are continuing our series in which we are going through the history of college football, reviewing every season and dissecting the national championship selection. Yes, selection. We've got a playoff era, we've got a BCS era, and now we have arrived at 1997, which is pre-BCS, and going back through the championship season and diagnosing if anybody was ripped off.
I mean,
Based on resume and so forth.
2 undefeated teams. I'm still claiming that as Michigan. I don't care about the split, but I don't. I mean, it's hard for me to think of somebody being ripped off on a season when you have teams who end up with 0 in the loss column. In the other years, just for me as a mental exercise, for the other years, if you have teams with a loss or something, clearly you're going to talk about 2000 Miami. Obviously, we had a claim because we beat Florida State, but then as Mark always brings up, Washington beat Miami and had only 1 loss. So that would be, but in 97, did you I think that the flow chart, it goes like this for me for 97. Did your team end up with 0 losses? Yes or no? No, then there's no other discussion because Michigan and Nebraska did. It's pretty linear, but in other years, it's not as direct a conversation.
No, it's not. 2007 and 2008 are a mess. They are a mess. They just are.
SB Nation, back when SB Nation was really peak SB Nationing, in 2017, I believe did a 10-year retrospective of the 2007 season. As this super duper season of chaos and whatnot, enlisted writers from a bunch of different blogs and sites to contribute to. I think it was a network wide. There was a big deal because the 2007 season was such a mess that a 10-year retrospective fit because of it. Yeah, because of it being the way that it was.
I also saw a list one time on SB Nation, and maybe this inspired me to do this a long time ago, where someone went through every season and basically said, okay, this was the AP national champion. This was the coaches poll national champion. This was the other 83 services that do various national championships. But look at their resume. Look, why are we giving them a national champion? Kind of dissected just very briefly, line by line.
That sounds like a
questioning
Bill Connolly
championship.
special.
Yeah, I think
That
it was.
Yeah, that feels like a Bill C thing when he was with us before he went to the Four Letter Network.
My process is pretty simplistic in that I make it very clear. I am not here trying to sell anyone on this team was better than that team.
Mhm.
If Nebraska and Michigan would have played, then so and so would have won. I'm not doing any of that. I am simply looking at resumes and saying, to your point, Nebraska is the national champion in 1997. Michigan is also the national champion. There is no way to settle this because we had two high-level teams playing high-level schedules. You can whittle it down to a number of points on Michigan's side. You can do the same thing on the Nebraska side, but the conclusion is they are both national champions, and they're both full national champions. And that's kind of how I attack it. Now, if there is, for example, a way to uh, determine based on head to head, obviously, that being the easiest, but then there are other factors to go through to either elevate teams or drop teams. We go through a pretty, I go through the record process, basically,
Right.
is
Yeah.
what the
The
deal is.
evaluative process to, yeah, a process that you
Yes,
trust.
it is a
Whomever.
process. It's systematic, but you do run into some gray areas because it's not the NFL. There are teams that don't
Right.
play and they don't come anywhere close to playing anybody that played anyone. Um,
Gotcha.
2007 comes to mind because basically the way it winds up, I'm awarding everyone with two losses. LSU is the recognized BCS champion. They
Mhm.
had two losses.
Wow.
Everyone else that had two losses has a comparable schedule to LSU.
I'm gonna have to go back and
USC, Georgia, and there's somebody else in there.
Georgia. Oh, I'm sorry. You said Georgia. Who was the coach of Georgia at the time?
Mr. Mark Richt.
Oh, right. So everybody says he, not even in the realm of it. Just, throwing out a little bit of support for my fellow alum, Mark Richt. He did. I know that he didn't have Georgia where Kirby has Georgia, but also he didn't have Georgia where, like, other guys have had Georgia.
No, there was a long list of coaches. And when I say long list, 3 or 4 coaches post Vince Dooley, pre Mark Richt, that he superseded
Exactly.
substantially. They had a long run of a lot of 7-5, 8-4 over and over and over and over.
Remember Dennis Franchione and Mike Shula at Alabama?
Yes.
Because I do. And I know that, you know what I mean? Like they didn't go straight from Bear Bryant to Nick Saban, and never, you know what I mean? Like there were other dudes that held that position and like had substandard performance. And, same was, seen at Georgia, which why, it was one of the things where, and this is what I had cautioned at the time. And clearly like they hit it out of the park, but Michigan was like 9-3, 10-2 for so many years with Lloyd Carr, gave him a final hurrah year, one last year, and was like, cool, after this, we're going to go in a different direction. And then the bottom fell out. Like Rich Rodriguez was never a fit there, like culturally, schematically, anything. Brady Hoke was, like Michigan tried to go from 9-3, 10-2 to championship. And there was a long time in the darkness, like Simba after Scar took over Pride Rock, before they got to where they are. You know what I mean? In Georgia, and that's all I said at the time, was like, look, you are betting that you're going to be able to take that really tough small step forward, and it's more likely, because we saw it in Michigan and other places, that you go fall back, but they seem to have hit it out of the park, and Kirby actually did take that step forward that Michigan and other teams have tried to take from pretty good but not great all the way up to powerhouse. But hey, good on Georgia for that.
Falconer TRX, I guess, confirming his earlier super chat, but thank you so much for that. Miami players don't pay state income tax on NIL.
Well, it's income that they earn in the state of Florida, so like there would be no state income. Like that's a thing that doesn't exist. So correct.
And to close out the night, we've got Leroy. Thank you so much for coming back with another contribution. How are we looking with any elite quarterbacks this class?
My guy Leroy, it is a little barren in terms of quarterbacks. I'm trying to scroll because there is a name of a kid that I'm trying to find. Where is quarterback on this list? Thank you. Nope, that's offensive line. I clicked on the wrong one. He is a like 4-star kid from okay, so there's Colin Hurley, who's been mentioned before from Jacksonville Trinity Christian Academy. That's a guy that Miami's going to continue to kick the tires on, I think. He's a guy, he's a 4-star who's kind of out there. I don't know why Meliuyaki Smith has 4 listings on 247, but that's cool. There is.
We just lost you again. You must have a short somewhere. That's the only thing I can think. That's about as far as I can go technically. Cam, appreciate you being here. We'll see you next week. All right, Leroy, and we will get back to your question next Wednesday. All right, Leroy, thank you so much for the contribution. We appreciate that. You will be on the docket for next week, and Cam addressing the quarterbacks in the class that Miami is pursuing. All right, appreciate everyone being here. I am jumping off and going straight to the main channel. Would love for all of you to follow me over to the main channel. We are going through the 1990s, season by season by season, and looking at the national championship landscape and what was fair, what was justified, and who should be rightful national champions every year. We will see you in a few minutes.